Hi everyone, and welcome to the Liverpool Connection podcast. I am your host Dazza. This is my football and music episodes, where I bring somebody on that's into music, obviously, and into football, which really helps. This man has put Liverpool on the map big time, with one of the best festivals in the north called Sound City. Um, as as people may or may not know, I'm based out of Austin, Texas, and South by Southwest is the music festival here. And Dave, my guest, has been here on many occasions and brought the sound of the North to Austin, Texas, and it's been going on for years as well. I only met him for the first time last year when Jamie Webster came over, and really wanted him to be on the podcast to talk music and football. So welcome, Dave. Really happy to have you on finally.
Thanks, Dazza. Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So we'll kick off. We'll talk about Modern Sky and Sound City in a little while. But let's talk football. Let's talk Liverpool. Let's go back a few years. Your first match.
Do you know, I knew you were going to ask this question, and if I'm absolutely honest, some people can remember their first match and the score and everything else. I can't remember what my first game was, being absolutely truthful. I'd love to say, it was some memorable 5-0 win or some cup game or whatever it was. It wouldn't have been. I used to go to the game with a next door neighbour of mine. I think I started going to watch Liverpool when I must have been 11 or 12 years of age. And so I was born in 1962. So that would have been around about 1974. I remember Ian Callahan being, kind of still being there and notching up the games that he did, the amount of games that Ian Callahan played. I met him recently at a game, actually. It's funny because there's a lot of kind of more notable heroes to younger people in the audience. But for me, I just made a beeline for Callahan because he was one of my heroes when I was a kid, really. And with Tommy Smith, and those other great players from that very first Shanker team that he put together, really. So it would have been about 74, 1973, 1974. I'd have been wearing probably a pair of Birmingham bags and probably a 3-star jumper or something like that, because none of us wore trainers in those days, no matter how we rewrite history. Nobody did. We all looked like fools going to the match.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't have been on the cup. I would have been. Well, I know where I was for the game. I was in the Annie Road South Side because my next door neighbour had a season ticket for the Annie Road South Side, and subsequently, after him taking me to a few games, I ended up buying a season ticket. Didn't have to wait in those days. I ended up buying a season ticket for the Annie Road South Side. You did have to wait for the cop in those days, I think, but the Annie Road you could get a season ticket relatively easy. And we used to sing songs like Copite to Gobshites in those days as well, because it was like a banter between the Annie Road and the cop. A friendly banter, of course. And, the north side was, of course, the part where all the away fans were in those days. So it was a lot more kind of boisterous between the south side and the north side of the Annie Road because that was where the two sets of fans met. But the game, I cannot remember. But I can remember some notable games. I mean, one that wasn't Liverpool, that came a couple of years later, was I remember going to see the World Cup qualifier there between Wales and Scotland because I had my season ticket then for the South Side. And it meant you could get tickets for those World Cup games. And of course, we were all fans of Dalglish then, even though, we hadn't come to Anfield yet. But in those days, because Scousers, we don't feel English, we didn't care that England weren't in the World Cup, but we did all support Scotland. And Dalglish was already a hero then. And I don't know if you remember, you're too young to remember, but the goal he scored was a glancing header at the Annie Road end. And I was right on that header, when he goes in. So when it talks about memorable moments of all the goals I saw scored in the south side of the Annie Road, that was probably one of the most memorable ones. That glancing header from Dalglish. when they beat Wales in the qualifying, and it actually got them to the World Cup finals that year. And that would have been 1978, so probably 77. That would have been.
That's right before Kenny came, didn't it? Because that's 77 is when Keegan left. Because Keegan was my hero.
I think we knew he was coming. I think that's why there was a lot of love for him anyway. But there's a lot of love for Scottish players anyway, particularly with Celtic. With Celtic players, and Dalglish was obviously a god at Celtic at that time. So I think there was rumours he was coming. So that was probably what it was about as well. Maybe he'd already come. I don't know, but in my head he hadn't come to Anfield at that time. But it was anyway. It was an amazing goal. It was absolutely amazing goal. And I've got great memories of going there. I used to go on the Cop a lot as well for night matches. But my main home in those days was the Annie Road South Stand.
It was a lot cheaper back then, wasn't it?
Oh God, I can't remember how cheap it was to get in. I remember you could queue for games to get in the Cop. I think it was about 50p, something like that. Maybe 50p rings in my head for some reason.
Well, I mean, even with the old turnstiles as well, your mate would go in and then you'd go underneath.
Yeah, I never did that. I never did that.
I did that once or twice,
and I mean, do anything like that.
I did that. Go on, I did it once or twice, and my granddad leathered me.
No, I never did that. I've done it at Wembley a few times with me and our kids. I remember one time there's about 9 of us went through, and we just ran as fast as we could, in my younger days. And me and our kid were the only ones who escaped. We were pretty fast, pretty swift on our feet, me and our kid, so we were way ahead of all the security.
Well, you have to be.
Yeah, I remember that was the Wimbledon final, one of them, when we both got him when we lost, on the penalty.
Yeah. That was a tough one to lose as well,
Yeah.
But I mean, I think Wimbledon were favourites anyway, weren't they?
I can't remember. If they were, I can't imagine why. Yeah, I remember it not being a great game, and all the tension of getting in anyway had built up. We were just buzzing when we got in, and I think in our head we'd won the game then, and then of course it turned out the way it did.
Yeah. Well, we've won a lot of trophies since, so I think we can give one or two finals away, but
I've been to quite. We've lost though, to be fair, over the years. Never feels good.
With the music business though, I mean, it's got to be tough. Is it tough for you to get away to watch the games?
Yes, of course. I'm a bit of a fair weather these days, so I tend to go to finals or to semi-finals or to glamorous away games if I can, because of our relationship with the club now. Because even before Jamie, we've been, I met Jamie on the plane going to Madrid, and that was because Sound City, my company, were doing the stage. We were helping the club run the stage in Madrid. So I do tend to have routes to market now to get tickets for games. And now I've got a lot of very, very wealthy friends as well who have boxes all over the place and stuff as well. So I can tend to get tickets for things. But I do look back fondly, even though I do like getting a nice meal and a nice seat and be warm these days. I do look back fondly at those days of being jostled up and down, 50, 60 steps going one way and 50, 60 steps going the other way, really, and just going with the flow of a crowd. There was nothing quite like the exhilaration of those kinds of games, really, and both in the Cop and on the Annie Road, to be honest. Wherever you went in the ground in those days, you were all over the place, really, and you did feel part of a community, I think, more then than you do now. I don't know how young people feel about it. I'm always reluctant to say my rock and roll was cooler than your rock and roll, be it about football or music or anything like that, because I think it's about being young, really, and so when we were young, going to the match, you think you're going to live forever, and everything's exciting, because you're young, really, and it's just amazing. So everything seems possible. So going the match, discovering bands, meeting girls, going clubs, going fezzies, all those things, that they all feel better when you're young.
Well, it's just a different time, I think. I mean, like, I DJ like house music, and I have this like back and forth with, America came up with the kind of EDM like genre, and everybody seems to want to be a DJ. Everybody's got their camera out these days. Back in the day, you never really, the only people that had cameras were the, actual photographers.
Yeah.
So, but I just look at it like it's their time. I can't be the granddad on the porch and be like, get off my lawn. I can't be that person. It's their time for new music. It's their time to watch the football, however they want to watch it. I do find it a bit bizarre, like you're watching a game and the person next to you is basically filming the whole thing. You just like, it's in here. Your memories in
But you
here.
know what? I know what you mean, but I also remember days of being at the ground, and there was people who were older than me at the time, so it wasn't young kids necessarily doing this, but there'd be people with earpieces in
Hmm.
listening to the match, and they used to get criticised saying, "Why are you listening to your ear? Just watch it," and all that, But they'd be listening to the commentary live while they were watching the game. I think people have always found a way for technology to assist them in some way, really, for whatever it might be, really. And I think, it's all well and good me saying, it was amazing going up and down the Cop, on those steps. It wasn't very safe, and the other thing about it is it's only because it was part of my that was part of my recollection, really. I think whatever the way you gather memories, it doesn't make my memories more valid or more cool or more exciting than anybody else's memories, because memories are just, they're just based on your own kind of experiences, really, and I'd rate that experience 10 out of 10. But you'd have someone who'd go to a game now who'd rate their experience 10 out of 10. Doesn't mean that theirs is any better or any less than mine. It's exactly the same, really. It made them feel exactly the same inside their body and their soul and everything else. So it's all as exciting as it was now as it was then. I think it's just different.
Yeah,
It's
well,
just
I mean, you get, I've been to, I was a season ticket holder for a long time, and I went back home for the first time in about 3 years. I went to the Newcastle game where it was just pissing down rain, and I was the happiest person
yeah,
on this earth just to walk up those steps again. But I felt like it was my first time again. But
yeah, yeah,
it's great to look around the ground and see people's faces just light up
yeah.
because it is their first time, and I miss
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah, you see that all the time now as well. How many times do people give you the phone and ask them to take a photo of them?
Yeah.
You know, because they're just so happy to be there. Really, it's amazing. You
Well,
know,
I mean, and you listen to their stories. We had a couple of people, not this past time, but the one time before, 5 years ago, just telling that saved up for nearly 10 years,
yeah,
and I'm just like, "Oh, that's amazing.
I
That's
know.
dedication."
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. I mean, that's the difference, of course. Now the cost is outrageous. And it does mean that certain classes of society don't get the opportunity to go as often as they quite might like to.
So I wanted to bring up Jamie. What a chance meeting that is, though, on the plane to Madrid, and as they say, the rest is history. So I mean, were you sat next to him?
We ended up sat next to each other. Um, it was the club had two planes going out. One had the team on and all the support staff, and then the other plane had pretty much all the officials from the club. People who were running all the tickets and the stage and all that kind of stuff. And then there was a friend of ours, a friend that we both knew, so who brought me in to work on the stage, and it was him that introduced us. He said, you should talk to each other, and so that was that, and we spoke for whatever length that journey was, really, about music and everything. And Jamie tells the story very well. I didn't say what I did till we got off, really, we just talked about music. Jamie talked about everything from Elton John to the Rolling Stones. Um, and of course, I knew he did the football songs, but I'd never seen him. I'd never even seen him in District, on one of the Boss nights. Seen videos, but I'd never seen him live. And then when we got to Madrid, I said, I told him I did Sound City because I told him we were doing the stage there, and also I had Modern Sky. And so Jamie said, "Oh, please make sure you watch me, when I played them," and I did, and I was blown away. I mean, 50,000 people at that crowd in the crowd that day. At least, Myth has taken it higher. Some have taken it a bit lower, some have taken it a bit higher. But I think that the common story is about 50,000 people, and he had them in the palm of his hand. And I thought, oh my God, if this kid's got his own songs, and we can turn some of this around with his own music, then he's going to be an unstoppable force because he's such charisma. There's that thing that everyone's got. Anyone can perform. Lots of people, millions of us can perform. But nobody can do it in a way. Very few can do it in a way that Jamie Webster can do it. And have an audience in the palm of his hand in the way that he does, and knows how to communicate with them, not just through his music, but through the way he talks to them as well. So yes, it was a very accidental meeting on that plane, and then we came home. I said, "Look, I want to make a record with you," and I went to see him rehearse. And pretty much the 12 songs he played to me on acoustic in his rehearsal room when we got home were the songs that we put out and We Get By. They were that was all he had, really. And I said, "Okay, we'll put those 12 out now. Write 12 more, because this might go fast." And it did go fast, really.
Well, he just connects, and not just with actors.
No, and that was what I thought straight away. Because of course he's talking to Liverpool fans at the events in Madrid, and of course there's the unified voice then. So it's not easy to do still, but everybody wants the same thing, so to speak, and everybody wants to be loud. But I just thought if we can open that up, and so one of the first things that we did was talking to Jamie, said, "Look, we've got to kind of not stop doing the football thing, but we've got to make it distinctive between the two." In the same way as I tried to make the example at the time, we all know Noel and Liam support Man City, but they don't sing City songs and they don't talk about it all the time when they're doing things. And with you, it's going to be even harder because you're so associated with them. So we did that, but then we found other ways as well to open it up. So, for example, talking about what the songs were about, the working class perspective he was coming from, the political angle he's coming from. And then one of the things that I did with his PR, his Rob Allen, who's worked his PR all the time, is we did interviews with all of the key fanzines around the country, football fanzines. So with Arsenal, with Manchester United, with Everton, with Man City, Tottenham, Chelsea, and we did interviews with all of those fanzines and got him to not hide the fact he was who he was, but to talk about the music and to talk about, even though we've all got our own football teams we all support, these are words and music about something that we all share, we've all got in common. And that really helped to open him up, and very, very slowly people began to open up to who he was and what he was about beyond just a football kid.
Yeah, he's just an amazing human being. He wears his heart on his sleeve. Like I said, I've known him for a few years now, and he's just the same Jamie. He's just the lad. And I love that about him. I mean, he's 3 albums, and they're all different, but they have the same, lyrical sense to me, where it's just the working class, and to get it out there. And I think Jamie will always be Jamie. How I mean, you've been around the music business for years. How some artists will change the characters, I just think Jamie will be like that forever.
No, I think so. I think so. He's a very genuine, authentic person, and also I've never known anyone with quite so much emotional intelligence that he's got. He really knows how to read a room. He really knows how to connect with either one person or 10 people or 100 people or 10,000 people or 20,000 people. He knows how to pitch it. He knows how to connect on a very human level, really. He's amazing at that, better than people who've, they're maybe 10, 20, 30 years older than him, really. And to know that at that such age is a real skill, really.
Well, I mean, like, he's an ambassador to one of, my um friends, Owen McVeigh Foundation.
Yeah.
And, even doing a little gig for them, for the kids, I'm just blown away just because he connects with every single person that's in that room. Well, I mean, it was looked like a back garden, but everyone's like hanging on every word that he says. I've seen the videos, and it just blows my mind. The best for Jamie. Again, like I said, 3 albums in and just top of the world. I mean, I think he can go even higher, and it's
That's
great.
fun, if we can.
Yeah, I'm sure it is world domination. But let's talk about Sound City. How did that all get started?
Well, as you just said before, I've worked in music for a long time. And when I say a long time, I mean a long time. I've been professionally working in music now for getting on for 40 years. And I always call myself a jack of all trades, master of none, really. I'm a generalist. I started, like most people in this business, in a band. And I was signed to RCA. And when we got dropped from RCA in 1992, I decided that I was always going to work in the business. So I can talk about all the artists I've worked with and the people I've worked with and so on. But Sound City came, somewhere in the middle of that. So Sound City's now coming up to 18 years. I set up that company 18 years ago. As you quite rightly pointed out at the beginning, it started by bringing artists to South by Southwest, under the banner of well, sorry, at the time when I first started coming to South by, I was still working with a guy called Tony Wilson. Tony Wilson was the guy who set up Factory and Hacienda and so on. So I worked with Tony on an event called In the City, which was a Manchester-based event that was very similar. And I'd worked on In the City for some years, from the early 90s, as I said, from when I'd stopped, when I'd been dropped from my record deal. I'd done lots of other things and managed lots of other artists, other labels, but part of what I did was some work within the City. And I worked with Tony on that. And then In the City ran for many years, about 16, 17 years. And then sadly, two things happened. Tony got ill and sadly died of his illness in the end, of cancer. And also, In the City wasn't relevant anymore. Like most things, it kind of almost run its life. And the model for it had been killed by technology. Sorry, someone's trying to call me, but I'll ignore it. Had been killed by technology. And so new kids were coming up on the block. And one of those new kids on the block who we'd ignored for a long time was South by Southwest. And so I decided to go over to South by to see what it was like. And I thought, wow, this is great. And so when Tony died, I spoke to his partner and his business partner, Yvette. And I said I wasn't going to work for In the City anymore. But I did tell her I'm probably going to try and set up a new event called, I didn't know what it was going to be called at that point, but in Liverpool, I was going to move at the other end of the M62 back to Liverpool, which is my hometown, as opposed to working in Manchester. But I've got a big love for Manchester, by the way, and we've got so much in common, Liverpool and Manchester, like a budgie peck in a mirror. Um, and so I'd been to South by. I'd seen what South by was like. Tony sadly passed away. I felt in the city had had its day, and also without Tony, it wasn't in the city in my eyes. So I decided that that kind of that planet, those three planets aligning themselves, made me want to start my own events in Liverpool. So I started Sound City, and I launched this in 2007 by taking artists to South by, and then I did it for the first time in Liverpool in 2008. And it's just grown and grown and grown since then, really, you know. And if I'm honest, it kept the best bits of In the City that was still good. And In the City had stolen all their ideas off the New Music Seminar in New York anyway, because that's what Tony did. He just robbed all the ideas off them, all the best ideas. And then, so I kept the best ideas from In the City, and then I stole a few ideas from South by Southwest, and created our own version of it, you know, boutique version of it in the UK. And at the same time, another event called The Great Escape set up as well. We both kind of created at the same time. So we've both been around for the same, you know, 17, 18 years now, doing what we do in the UK, really, you know. And have become very important, what we call business events, as well as events to launch new talent from year on year, really. But I think the difference about Sound City is we've taken it to lots of other parts of the world as well. So we've taken it to New York several times. I've taken it to Dubai. We've taken it to Norway. Taken it to China. We've taken it to Seoul. We've done events on the DMZ zone, you know, the demilitarized zone in between North and South Korea, you know. So we were quite adventurous, really. A bit like Scousers. We you know, we love our home, but we like planting flags everywhere else, really, you know. So we've done a lot of that over the years as well. But the mission and the vision has always stayed the same, to give the best of what we consider emerging talents, you know, present it, and to offer a stage for that talent in front of a world-class business audience to try and help it along, you know, and to put Liverpool back on the map as a 21st century music city. That's been one of the key things.
Yeah, it's just been amazing. I mean, you know, like I said, I live in Austin. I've been to South by so many times, and it's a great melting pot of music. They do say this is the music capital of the world. I do have to have a little giggle sometimes when they say that, because I'm like, yeah, okay. I mean,
yeah,
it is
great at slogans, aren't they? They are great at slogans.
Oh, it is. It is. But I mean, you know, it's the home of Willie Nelson, blues, Stevie Ray Vaughan, you know, and
Austin's got history. It really has, you know. But whether it's the, you know, I mean, here's my line I always give, Daz, is that, because people have often asked me, why have I always run labels in the north of England, really? You know, why have I never been enticed to work for the majors? Because I could have worked for labels in the south as well, but I've never been interested to do that. One is because I love where I am and where I'm from. You know, I actually like being. I love seeing the world. Don't get me wrong. The world's a fantastic, beautiful place to go, and I love seeing as much of it as I can before I shuffle off. But I like being where I am, and I love being where I am for the people, and I like the weather, you know, and the culture and all those things. And my argument is, why would I, as a businessman doing what I do, why would I be anywhere else? Because if you take the outputs, the musical outputs of Liverpool and Manchester alone, and the villages and hamlets in between, that would be, you know, Manchester's got a population of 2.5 million people, a little bit more. Liverpool's got a population of about 900,000 people. So you've got a population there of about 3.5 million people, with all the towns and hamlets in between. That's not a London. That's not a New York. That's not an LA. That's not a Tokyo. That's not a Paris. That's not any of those size of any of those. It doesn't come anywhere near. When you look at the output of the Beatles and Oasis and everything else in terms of the bands, the artists, and the money that those artists have generated for the business, then we're batting way, way above any other city of 3.5 million size anywhere on the globe, if you put the two cities together. And that's why I think we're stronger together. And that's why I think, but I think that's the reason we're strong together, is because of the competitive elements. And that output, why would you be anywhere else in the world to find your musical talent when you've got a history, in the last 60 years of an output like that. So it's simple for me. I'm ploughing in the fields that, the richest fields in the world for generating talent. And I would argue they're richer, and you could harvest more from them. New York, LA, London, Tokyo, any of those cities, anywhere when you put the two cities together. So it's quite a simple argument, really. And then when you add cities like Sheffield, Leeds, Glasgow into the mix, which are, again, spitting distance away from us, it makes it an even more kind of compelling and easy choice to make.
Well, I mean, the talent is the Lars, the Coral, Jamie, just from Liverpool itself. But then you've got surrounding areas, like you said, like Wigan, the Lathams. There's so much talent there that it's good that you haven't moved. You're deep in the trenches. How could you be in New York and really know how the Liverpool scene is?
No,
you're so far from it.
What London has, we're culturally a divide away from each other, and don't get me wrong, I'm in London all the time for work I do, but it's the divide and the lack of understanding for music business execs in the South for the culture and the music of the North is astounding, really,
So how with Modern Sky, which I want to say congratulations, because you've had a massive 2023, top albums. I mean, you can't get better than that. Again, how did that come about? Because you spend most of your time, obviously, Sound City, that's your baby. With Modern Sky, how did that come into your life?
Modern Sky, several years ago, I sold part of Sound City to another company because I needed it to grow, and I didn't have the money to help it to make it grow. I had the ideas with my team and the vision, but did not the money, and you need money. So I sold part of it to another company, and I worked with that company for 3 years. And I don't really want to talk about anything negative, but for one reason or another, I didn't like the people I worked with. From a business point of view, it was very successful. The company grew. We made a lot more money. But, it's not just about those things. I wasn't happy with the people I was working with. So I wanted to bring in another partner to buy out my old partners, because now the company was worth more money and I couldn't afford to buy the share back. So I needed another partner to do it. And I was friends for over 25 years with Seymour Stein, who was my friend and my mentor for many, many years. Seymour was a legend in the business. He set up Sire Records. Seymour discovered the Ramones, the Talking Heads, Madonna, signed the Smiths, the Cure, Depeche Mode, the Bunnymen, the B-52s. The list goes on. He was one of the last great A&R men who sadly died last year. I went to his funeral in New York. But Seymour was a great friend and a great mentor for many, many, many years. And he said to me, why are you looking west for a buyer or, for a partner? Why don't you look east? Have you ever considered looking east? And I said, no, I don't know anyone in the east. I said, I do stuff in South Korea, but I don't think there's anyone there that can get involved. And he goes, there's this great company called Modern Sky in China. Maybe I could make an introduction to them. And he did make an introduction to them. I met the CEO of Modern Sky in China, from China, in Helsinki. And we spoke for about an hour, and he'd already seen all the numbers for Sound City. And in that hour, he agreed to do the deal. And so he bought out my old partners and took a 30% stake in Sound City, which he still has. And part of the deal was that he wanted me to help him grow his business out of China. Now, I've got to be honest, it's very rude of me, really, because here's the guy who's done a deal and saved my life, really, and buying my old partners out. And I hadn't even done any research on his company to understand who he was. So typical Brit, I suppose, in those days. And he said, I know don't know a great deal about Modern Sky, but come to Beijing, come and see what I do. And I went to Beijing and I saw this company that had over 350 staff. He built from 1997 to be the largest independent entertainment company in China. Biggest roster of domestic artists, doing billions of streams, doing 1 million tickets a year for his festivals. A huge company and a very, very cool company. And so this is the company that bought part of Sound City. And Li Wei's deal was, he said, I know the companies you've worked for. I know you worked with Rob Gretton. I know you worked with different record labels and so on. He said, because he was a real Anglophile, is a real Anglophile. He said, I want you to build my company outside of China. And so that was the deal. And so part of the deal was we were going to look at starting a catalog business, which we didn't do, buying catalog. It's too expensive. Going back about 7 years ago, everyone wanted too much money. So we decided, he said, you've got a great history of running record labels. Why not you start running a new record label for me? And I thought, oh no, not back into the record business again. I thought I was out of that. I thought I'd escaped 15 years before that. Well, no, at that time would have been 12 years before that. The last time I'd worked in records before I set up Sound City. Anyway, he said to do it. I said, okay. I said, but you're going to lose a lot of money. I said, it's tough now, the record business, and so I think it's going to be 10 years before you break even. But he wanted to do it. So we did it. And that was 6 years ago. And now we've been making money now for the last 3 years. It took us about 2 years to break even. And, Modern Sky has just grown and grown and grown. And if I'm being honest now, Modern Sky is my full-time job. Sound City, my baby, I've handed the baby over now. I've got a great MD with a girl called Becky Ayres, and a great team at Sound City who run that now. And they'll take it through the next 20 years because it should be with younger people, really, to keep it relevant and reinvent the wheel and all that kind of stuff. So I have very little to do with Sound City these days and more to do, everything to do with Modern Sky and the plans for us, not just in the UK, but because I run North America, I run the North America side of the business as well. Mm-hmm. So the plans that we're going to, how we plan to expand that over the next probably 2 to 3 years, working with Virgin, who are now my global partners with it, So that's how it came about. It's a bit like that plane to Madrid, It was Seymour making a crazy introduction, me going to Helsinki for a meeting that I thought wouldn't amount to anything. And I came home from Helsinki and said to my wife, this guy I met in Helsinki wants to buy into the company, and everything we agreed in that 1 hour meeting is what happened after the lawyers got out of the way 6 months later, and I've got to say it was the best union I've ever made, really, meeting Shen Li Wei, meeting Jamie, and many of the other artists who we signed as well, over the last 7, 8 years has been, it's started my career again. It's took it on a different path. Again, one that I never thought would happen. I spend a lot of my time now going to China, South Korea, other parts of Asia, as part of our business. And I never thought I was going to be doing that at my age, I never thought that was going to happen. But I love it. And it's made life interesting again. They always say you should invent yourself every 6 years, reinvent yourself every 6 years. So it's allowed me to do that. So I'm very, very lucky. And if you'd have said to the 16-year-old me where I was going to end up, I thought you were mad. But life only makes sense when you look backwards. My life where I've got to now, and I've got a lot more I want to do yet. But none of it's never been a great plan. There was never, I'd love to say I had a business plan for it, and I meant every step along the way. I didn't. It's just been a kind of it's been a journey of some happy accidents and meeting great people and being very ambitious, and I think if I've got any skill, it's being able to put people together. That's probably the skill I'm good at. Building.
The music business has to wear you down over the years, and I think rejuvenating yourself has got to help, and seeing acts, like the Lathams, like Jamie, has got to rejuvenate you and just be like, this is why I'm in this business. Yeah, it does. And I think the older I've got, because when I was younger, I was partying. I came up, you were saying you were a house music DJ. I worked with a lot of acid house,
labels and techno label. I ran Voodoo Records as well. So, and in those days we were doing everything. And so listen, I can remember everything. Thankfully, I can remember, but but um but you were living one moment that you weren't really. You were in the moments, but you were kind of really in the moment in every way. Whereas now I don't go crazy like those things. So I get to I get to soak it up more, take it in more. And I love working with, so working with younger people. I don't think of myself as that much older than them, even though I am. Not that I'm trying to party like them, but because I've grown up in this business, I know they share the same fears and hopes and ambitions and everything that I had and still have. And those and the age they are, I still feel like that was still only yesterday to me, really. So I still feel I can relate to it in many, many ways. And so, and I love being around, people the age of Jamie, the Lathams, the Lathams. Sorry, I should say, I should get it right. My own band, shouldn't I? Crawlers, Abby Ozard, Brooke Combe, all the artists we work with. They all kind of help me not keep young because that's the wrong word, but they keep me questioning myself and keep me looking at the world in a different way, really, and trying to see it through their eyes, or continuing to try and see it through their eyes, and what they want from it.
Well, I know you're coming over to Austin, aren't you?
I
For
am.
something to
I'm
do.
over. I was going to say that at the end of the interview so I'm coming over it's the day after Mother's Day. So I think it's the 11th of March, something like that. It's a Monday anyway. Yeah, yeah, I'll be over. I'm there for a week. I fly to LA.
Yeah, you're doing. I think it's at the Hilton. Uh, you're doing it. Is it a workshop or like a
I have
mentoring?
no. I know
That
my
I think
Angie
that's what I saw on the thing.
has got something in there. I think part of the deal was because they invite um, they invited me over. They said if you want, we'll give you a free badge if you'll do a mentor session. And going back to what I said before, I'd have done it anyway. I'm a great believer in mentors. Like I said, Seymour was a mentor and a friend to me for the last 20 odd years of my life, amongst others, really. I've still got lots of mentors. And so any chance I get to just talk to people, I will talk because like I said, it's a two-way street that you're not just giving, you're receiving, you're learning stuff yourself, and I think it's important to do that, keep your mind open all the time.
Well, if anybody's here for South by Southwest in Austin, please go check Dave out. And also, um, is Sound City coming again?
Yeah, Sound City is where it always is. It's the May Day bank holiday, coming up. So I think it's the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of May. It's the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, anyway. Yeah, and I think they're the dates. I should know the dates, shouldn't I? So it's those 3 dates in May. Yeah. Um, yeah. So I'll be around for Sound City as well. When it's happening. But then obviously all of our bands are out on tour and everything as well.
Well, hopefully I'll be back home in May when Liverpool win everything. So hopefully I'll catch up with you.
Yeah,
Um,
please. Well, if you're around in Austin, if you got any chance for a bevy, let me know. It'd be nice to see you.
I'm actually leaving on. I'm taking a road trip with the family. Um,
Ah,
yeah, I'm
sounds good.
leaving. I think I'm leaving March 9th, and I won't be back till the 16th.
Well, I leave on the 17th, Paddy's Day. I'm going to LA, so I won't see you
Oh,
this time. Yeah.
well, I mean, it depends when we come back. I think we're leaving on that Wednesday, and we should get back the Thursday. So maybe if there's a day in between where I'm back, well, I'll
Yeah.
definitely have a
Well,
bevy.
well, well, well the 16th is a Saturday.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
I fly
I'll
to
be back.
Austin.
I'll be back. I'll be back before then. We'll be
Oh,
back
well,
on
let's
a
try and do.
Thursday
Yeah.
or Friday morning.
Yeah.
But before we go, I've got two massive questions for you.
Go on.
I always leave a guest with your ultimate headlining festival. Your headliners, alive or dead, for a Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Headliners.
Yeah.
um, my first love ever was David Bowie. And he's one of it was my baby sister got me into Bowie when I was a kid. I run the David Bowie World Fan Convention as well. It was one of the things I set up. Took it to New York last year. It's back in the UK this year, and so on. But even though I saw Bowie so many times, so even though Bowie is my first and my last love, he wouldn't be on there, I think, because I'd probably want to see someone at the height of their powers. And I saw Bowie at the height of his powers. So if they were alive, I wouldn't just want them alive. I'd want them at the height of their powers if I can bend the rules that much. And so Elvis would have to be there. The 1956 Elvis. I would have to see that 1956 Elvis. I'd have to see the 1967 Beatles, to see, even though they would stop playing live at that point, they'd have to get back together for my Fezzy to play it, So to see that version of the Beatles, that version of Elvis, 1956 Elvis, and then I think it would have to have been, because even though I saw them once, they weren't at the height of their powers. It would have to be the 1969. They would be my three headliners.
Oh, what was that you cut out? Sorry, Dave.
Oh, sorry. It would be the 1968, 1969 Velvet Underground.
Oh wow, yeah, that's some festival you've got there.
And then I could have fun with the bill below that, Alive or Dead, as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant. And me last question to you: what does Jurgen Norbert Klopp mean to you?
Well, he gave us hope again, didn't he? He's been everything that's been said about Jurgen has already been said far more eloquently than I could ever say. But personally, like everyone, when I found out that news, it really was like, if not a member of your family had been killed, certainly a member of your family had been seriously injured. It was that much of a shock. And it's like everyone, you're thinking, what next? We all knew it was going to end, but we just didn't want it to end now, and probably didn't want to believe it was ever going to end, really. But all things must pass, all things must end. So Jurgen gave us hope. He also made us, even if we could ever be such a thing, he made us prouder of our club than we've ever been for a long, long time. And not just about the football that he gave us on the pitch, but about the actual club itself, because he was such a spokesman, is such a spokesman. The way he represents us, as a human being, let alone as a kind of athlete and a sportsman, as a human being, the way he talks about other human beings and his views on the world and so on. It made you proud, made you really proud that you were part of his family, really, in whatever small way that was, that you felt part of the community that we all are as Liverpool FC fans, and part of that family. You felt proud going out, holding your head up high, saying, I'm a Liverpool fan, and Jurgen Klopp is our manager. Wow, it was amazing, wasn't it? So sad it's going to end. I can feel myself getting quite sad saying that, really, but again, as we feel he's going to go. Yeah, so that's kind of what he meant to me. And like everyone, I felt like I knew him, even though I don't know him.
Mm-hmm.
I really knew him because of the way, again, he communicates. He makes you feel like you're all part of everything that he's doing.
Yeah, nobody's higher than anyone else
No.
in his presence. And I think that's what I'll miss, is just his kindness.
Yeah. There's going to be big boots to fill them for every reason. You might get someone who's as good at him, as good as him in terms of, their knowledge of the game and everything else that goes with it. But as a human being, as nice as him, as good as him, as decent as him, wow, that's going to be the tough bit to fill.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Dave, it's been absolutely brilliant to have you on. Please, if you're in Liverpool in May, go see Sound City. Well, if you're in Liverpool in May, you can go see Liverpool Football Club. You can go see Jurgen Klopp hopefully lift more trophies. But go see Sound City if you're in Austin, Texas for South by. Go see Dave. Give him a wave. Have a pint with him. He's got the money, so he'll be buying the bevies. So it'll be all good. But thanks everyone for listening. Please like and subscribe. Put your notifications on, and we'll see you next time.